And we're live with another SEO Leadership webinar. Today we have Pablo, the SEO manager at Generation Tux. How are we today, Pablo?
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm doing really well.
No, it's not a problem. Always pleasure having you on. And it's 8 o'clock in the morning for Pablo and 4 o'clock in the afternoon for us. So he's got up nice and early just to jump on this webinar. But it's okay. He has his coffee. But yeah, so Pablo, to start off the to start off the webinar, we just like to. It's a quick, brief question just to explain for our viewers your background, so how you got into SEO and where you are now.
Yeah, I like to think that I got into SEO quite randomly. Um, the year was 2014. I had just graduated from college, and uh, I got my first job right out of college, and I was laid off 6 months later. And it's just unrelated. It was a customer service job for a video game company, and I was really excited. Like I was just out of college, and I was like, oh my gosh, the real world, here I go. And I was laid off 6 months later, and I could not find a job, and it was crazy. By the way, I live in San Diego, in 2015, in San Diego, California. And the job market was really tough at the time, and I had no experience, right? So uh, it, I had to move. I decided to move to Phoenix, Arizona, and this was the next year, like a year after, right? It was 2015. I walked into a digital marketing agency, and I remember sitting down in the front office, and I was looking around, and I kept seeing awards hung up on the walls about link building, and I'm like, what the hell is link building? Sorry, can we cuss here? Please, please roll that out. But I was so confused. I kept reading. I understand English. I kept reading the awards and like all the stuff that was coming up, and I'm like, I don't understand any of this. None of this makes any sense to me. And it was an entry level job as a link builder. It was like data entry, right? You'd be doing research and communicating with other website owners and doing some content marketing. And I was like, oh, sure, man. Like, I need a job. Like, let's do it. And surprisingly, it was a very long interview process. That was 2 hours. And I was really excited. It sounded super interesting. I got hired. I started working there. And they needed help with some Spanish campaigns that they were working on. So they needed someone that spoke Spanish, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like me, pick me, it's perfect." And they were paying a little bit more just for the Spanish skills. But anyways, I started working there, and I had to reach out to websites and use SEMrush for competitive analysis, review backlinks, reach out to websites, review all these metrics, and send them content. And sometimes give them a little money on the side. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, this is so easy. Like people get paid for this.
Yeah.
And I can just sit at my computer and browse the web and I get paid for this. I was fascinated by the industry. I knew nothing about it, but the more I learned, the more interesting it sounded. And I was using all sorts of tools. Majestic was a big one, and there was another crawler at the time that was used a lot in like Black Hat SEO. I forgot the name, but there were all these tools that the team was giving us for research, um, and just emailing people and getting content placed on other websites, and that was sort of the first impression I got into SEO. So it was fascinating to me. I kept learning more. Uh, in 2016, I joined the Phoenix New Times, and it was a larger team. I was just so excited to learn and work with larger content teams, working with small businesses. Um, and at the time, most of my clients did not really value or understand what SEO could do for them.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was sort of like my introduction to SEO. Um, and then I joined Victorious in San Francisco, a small SEO agency. I joined when it was 8 people, and I was there for about 4 years. 2021, I joined the team at Meta for business as a global SEO specialist. And 8 years into my career now, I'm the SEO manager at Generation Tux.
Perfect. And you've
Perfect,
only
Pablo.
started with Generation Tux quite recently. How are you finding the sort of the onboarding process with them? Is there anything that they've sort of carried out that's really sort of caught your eye or really sort of impressed you?
You know, I've always enjoyed working with small businesses. I find there's so much flexibility, there's so much trust, and there's so much support that you can get from small businesses. There's less politics in the workplace as well.
Yeah.
There's so much more freedom to explore, your interests. You're like, hey guys, like this can be really helpful for us. Let's do it. And your manager could be like, yeah, let's do it. Like, what do you need from me? Let's make it happen. So I've always enjoyed that aspect of working with small businesses. Now, I was actually looking for a job for a whole year before that.
Really?
So it took me a whole year to find this role at Generation Tux. Before that, I was in Meta, and if you might have heard, there were a lot of layoffs that were happening last year. Tons of people, tens of thousands of people in big tech were being laid off, unfortunately. So I was freaking out. I wanted to prepare myself, set myself up for success. So I started looking just to see what's out there. Fortunately, I was not laid off, but I was on a contract. So I knew my engagement with Meta was going to end at some point. And I wanted to, have something else to come after that. So I applied to hundreds of different jobs. They will all work from home. And it was so frustrating because, I could land a lot of interviews. Nothing worked out until I applied to one single job, a hybrid job, going into the office in San Diego twice a week. That was the only hybrid job I applied to, and that was the one I got. So I think there's something there to say about SEO as well. And if you're targeting a whole country in your SEO efforts, there's going to be a lot of competition, lot of competition. Yep. But I focus in my location, San Diego, and I got it. So that's what happened.
Excellent.
Can you just tell us a little bit about moving from an SEO strategist to an SEO manager and the mindset shift behind that, especially moving from a company like Meta into a more niche company now with Generation Tux?
Yeah, that's a great question. In my experience, it wasn't such a huge mental shift because I have 8 years of SEO experience, and 6 of those years was through SEO agencies. So I was already comfortable guiding strategy, saying, okay, this is where this client is at, this is where this website is at. Let's do an audit, let's do the research, let's see what our obstacles and our opportunities are. And let's put together a plan, right? Like, let's see what we can do with limited resources and limited time. What can we do to, search that ROI and improve that value, right, to the client. So being in an agency, I mean, you kind of have to, you really have to, you're forced to have these discussions with your team or with your clients, right? You go on a phone call with your client, you're like, hey guys, like things aren't working out. What the hell is happening? Let's turn it around, or I'm gonna cancel, right? Why am I paying you? So you're really forced to like just have these conversations, have all of this top of mind to prove your worth. So moving from an SEO specialist role, it was more of a support role. I was doing a lot more business intelligence when I was in Meta, a lot of reporting, a lot of content optimization. So it was a supporting role based on a grander, bigger roadmap for the organization. So now that once you start into an SEO manager role, like it all comes down to you, right? So like to me, having that agency experience prior to this was so valuable and being exposed to so many different tactics and strategies and penalties, right? People not doing link building the right way, or people, doing spinning content. Such an older concept, but and I was actually just thinking about spinning content because with generative AI, it's kind of like it can be like a glorified way of spinning content. But anyways, yeah. So and another thing that has been really a little bit more difficult for me has been the fact that people look at you as a subject matter expert, and anything that you say could be taken as gospel. So you have to be really careful with how you phrase things. As I'm sure we all know in SEO, right? Google said this. And then it takes it's extrapolated into all sorts of different implications, and then people get derailed.
Awesome.
Perfect,
And just
Pablo.
quickly, sorry, Jay, one last question. Can you just tell us a little bit about the team structure within Generation Tux at the moment? And do you have any, if you're allowed to say, any goals for the future, for the next year coming up?
The goals. Yeah, so the team structure at Generation Tux is very small. It's a startup. We have a small marketing office here in San Diego. Our HQ is in Kentucky. And here in this marketing office, it's very small. My current role is as an individual contributor. And the marketing team is also very small. It's about 7 people. So I work very closely with SEM manager, someone that's in charge of partnerships. We have people doing social media ads and other types of marketing. And one of my favorite things is how collaborative SEO is. And I've been in other environments where SEO is siloed heavily, where it's like, guys, like, we're trying to create valuable content here, like why shouldn't we connect with the sales team or customer service team, or even the people running search ads? Like, they have such valuable information that we can also use in SEO. You can take it in any way, and that's something that I'm really passionate about. Improving collaboration, cross-functional collaboration, and it's something that like I really honed in on those skills when I was in Meta. I mean, you have such a large organization, you have someone focusing on something very specific, and you get to work with a lot of different people, which is amazing. As far as goals, I don't think I can share too much about that, but we operate in B2C in the shopping space, right? So SGE is something that is giving me a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah.
I don't know what things will look like, and it's difficult to prepare for that. But and it's something that I found truly valuable when I joined Brighton SEO last week here in San Diego, the conference. There were so many conversations about SGE and the future of SEO, but goals. At Generation Tux, SEO was neglected for quite a bit. So my sort of first step here is to recover the visibility that Generation Tux once had. So that's sort of like my first approach there, recovery.
Cool, thanks, Jay.
Perfect, Pablo. And yeah, Pablo, so we released a book. It's called our SEO Leadership Playbook. And essentially what it is, it's for people stepping into that managerial role and exactly what to expect and how to deal with everything that comes up maybe within their first 90 days or so forth within running the team. So for the people at that stage in their career, you were talking about collaborating with different departments. So how do you successfully collaborate with, say, your PPC, all the different departments you work with, and make sure that you're all collaborating and going on towards the same goal together? Because I'm sure, there might be a battle of the budget there. So how do you make sure it's a successful collaboration between the departments?
Yeah, let's see. I remember when I first started working in SEO as a link builder. This was 2015. I think I was there for 7-8 months as a link builder, and then an opportunity came up. I moved to a strategy team, which they were in charge of doing the audits, the research, putting together the whole campaigns, and the link building requirements. Right? Hey, we're gonna do authority development for this website. Let's build some links around this topic. Let's work with the content marketing team. So when I was doing link building, I didn't understand anything about SEO. It sounds so bad to say that now, but it's important because I was doing it all wrong. As a link building, I didn't understand anything. I was following instructions. I was checking boxes, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when I moved to the other team, I realized, and that was the first time that my manager, like I truly like respected and trusted my manager, and I saw them as a mentor. They were so supportive in my journey to learn SEO, and I realized by taking a lot of courses and learning more and connecting with people, I realized that what the other team was doing was entirely wrong. And I think just me as a first generation immigrant in the United States, having the work ethic of an immigrant working family, like I have accountability and work ethic in the work that I do, and I'm really proud of the work that I do. So I was like, oh my gosh, that can never happen again. Like I need to fix this. And also, having that experience of working in the other team, like I know how they do things. So I am the perfect person to, in my mind, I was thinking all this. Like who else would be better positioned to break down these barriers, these silos, these walls between teams, and improve communication and processes, and also lead to better results for our clients. By the way, I came into SEO as Penguin 3. I don't know if y'all remember that. Penguin 3.0 had just released. I was doing links very, very, that was very sketch. So I was like, oh my God, people are losing businesses, their entire businesses, because Penguin 3.0 just wiped them off search results, and they have to wait until the next Penguin update to recover. I was freaking, and I had to go on the phone with them to be like, oh, I'm sorry, like that sucks, but we have to do better links now. So I to me, like I just had such a huge problem with that, and I felt the personal responsibility to fix that. So communication is so crucial. Work with other teams. Other teams have such valuable information, and getting together and everybody being on the same page. Like I am very proud to say that before I left that company, collaboration between teams had gotten to such a better state. That link building team was so siloed from everything that was strategy related. But like right before I left, I remember like we were all sitting in the same room every time a new client came in, and like everybody was hearing and listening. It's like, hey, here are the goals for our campaign. This is what we're gonna do. This is how you play a role in this. This is our goal, and this is how everybody can put their 2 cents in. And then hey, let's check back in a month from now, or 2 months, or 3 months. And in a similar way, in my second job in SEO, this was at the Phoenix New Times. This was a larger digital marketing agency that had a development team as well, working with small businesses, like I mentioned. And not to throw shade, but the developers were building a broken product in terms of SEO, that they were selling non-SEO optimized websites to our clients, and then the SEO team will take over and be like, hey, let's optimize this. So I had a huge problem with that. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is so wrong in so many levels. Like, and we're charging so much money for. Anyways, to small businesses, like it could be, you may not have enough money to pay your staff. So
sorry, Pablo, you mentioned about the manager who sort of inspired you to get to that stage. What sort of characteristics did he have, and how have you sort of adapted that into your sort of role today?
Okay. Wow, yeah, that's a hard question. I think when you're vocal about your interests, and you feel comfortable, you're in an environment in which people encourage you to speak your mind. So that's a given. Like that has to be a prerequisite, right? Like you have to feel comfortable in a healthy enough culture in the workplace to speak your mind and share your interests and be like, hey, like this isn't exactly what I'm doing, but I'm so like I'm very passionate about this, and I would like to learn more about that particular thing. And I think the manager that I had at the time, he picked up on that, and he was like, yeah, like this guy's great. This guy may have a lot of potential. And hey, let's invest some resources into this guy, and he could be a great strategist maybe in 6 months or a year or a few years from now, and could turn into a great asset. So there's different factors there, but it's very important to have that culture, and encouraging people to professional development.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Pablo, just a brief summary of the previous question, then moving on. So communication is obviously a huge thing in between departments and overall within any career, I suppose. But summarizing being an SEO manager, what would you say your top 3 leadership qualities are, which should be prominent for anyone stepping into a leadership position?
Yeah. I think it really comes down to soft skills, honestly. I've met amazing SEOs. I met some great managers that were not, and SEO is seen as such a technical discipline. You start, auditing, researching, and a lot of analysis. And then there's a whole content marketing approach, very scientific. But I think it comes down to the work ethic, accountability. I am a huge proponent of leading with empathy, especially in SEO. Like, sometimes explaining some concepts can, you have to, people have different learning styles. That's what I'm saying. So you need to speak to that, right? Like, do I have to record something on my computer and like just show you a video that you can reference later? Or maybe like, hey, like just let's chat about this, or like, hey, here's a lot of resources you can read on your own time. But I think at the end of the day, having an inquisitive mind can go so far in my experience. Just asking questions, like, hey, something happened, and let's see why this happened, or how could we navigate around this situation, and being open to different mindsets, different experiences. And I think that's one of my favorite things about attending conferences, or joining webinars, because you get to hear from people that have had entirely different experiences, right? And being open to all of that in SEO can go so far, which is also like, I'm glad I don't work in agencies anymore, but like I'm glad I did for 6 years, because holy crap, working with so many different clients, so many different markets, so many different campaigns, you're exposed to just so many different businesses, and even international campaigns, right? Like it just goes so far, and you're just wondering all sorts of things, like, wow, like if we do this here or do that there, like, what could happen? So just, yeah.
When you are working in such sort of a fast-paced working environment with maybe like a lot of clients, how do you sort of get that work-life balance and maybe stop a burnout? Or
That's difficult. It's very difficult to do. It can be a slippery slope, especially if you have a lot of accountability, right, in the work that you're doing, and you're like, oh my God, I have a call at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I don't feel prepared. I'm gonna stay up all night, and prepare for this. It's a big client. Da da da. It's well, you have to set boundaries, really.
Yeah.
Boundaries with coworkers. The culture that you have at work has to foster that. Like, hey, if you set some boundaries, everybody has to respect that. But you also have to set boundaries with yourself. And it's important to understand that the work that you do does not define you, and you can have a life outside of work. So therapy, very important.
Big time. Big time.
Mhm.
You mentioned as well that you recently attended Brighton SEO. How important is it, especially working for Generation Tux now, to attend networking events, coming on webinars, that sort of thing, especially for, I guess, benefits for company culture and personal brand?
Yeah, so I'm a person that's more on the introvert side. So being surrounded by so many people, I get a little like, oh my God, it's loud in here. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna excuse myself. But the presentations were so valuable because right now, in this very moment, is such a huge, important time in SEO. We got SGE coming out, which some people have claimed is the biggest change in the industry in more than 10 years, 20 years, or like some people are saying ever, right? Whatever it is, people acknowledge that this is big, it's huge, and it could potentially change the course of SEO and digital marketing. So it's to me, it was so important to attend this conference so that I can hear from other experts, what their point of view is. Doesn't mean like if they're right or wrong, or maybe they're on something else, like, oh, maybe I'm in a different industry, like it doesn't apply to me, or like whatever the case is, it's so important to be exposed to different opinions, and honestly, like, and also to like keep up, right? SEO changes so fast. You kind of need to know like what else is out there, like what else is happening. GA4, by the way, my God, yeah, I've
I was going to ask, how do you manage to keep on top? Is it sort of, do you follow anybody in particular? How do you make sure like the team keeps up to date with it?
Honestly, LinkedIn has really become my go-to place to keep up with all that's happening. I can't recall any like specific names off the top of my head, but like if you really start to follow organizations that really care about the industry, and they're sharing valuable resources, and you see the individual people that are involved that are contributing something positive to the industry, over time you just start to create a network of people in your social media, right? It's in LinkedIn. And you'll get to see everything that's happening, and if you get curious, it's so easy to just follow that conversation and learn more.
Perfect. And Pablo, just before we round it up, earlier on we were talking about accountability, and being a manager now, obviously a managerial role comes with accountability for whether your team performance. So obviously stepping in that position, how do you combat maybe imposter syndrome if something doesn't go your way, and maintain the motivation in your team to carry on going forward?
My God, it's so funny that you asked that, because I actually have a workbook right here. How to overcome
that was not planned, by the way.
syndrome. So I've been doing therapy for about a year now, and also coming from, oh my God, this could be such a long conversation, but doing therapy has helped me so much, and also just reframing. Sorry, there's just something that I really have to talk about because it's so relevant. One of the imposter subtypes is literally the expert. So when you consider yourself an SEO expert, you feel like you need to know everything. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know the answer to that. I'm not an expert. Or like, it could derail you. It can be really difficult, right, to navigate all of that, all of those feelings and emotions. But being graceful with yourself, doing therapy, is so important. And talking to other people. I think that's why groups like Women in Tech SEO. I just saw it at Brighton SEO. They had like a SEO for neurodivergence. Like that's incredible. Like, you know, there's so many groups that can be of huge support for people like you. I mean, you know, there's always something for everybody. But I mean, first things first, seek therapy. Even if you don't think you need it, it can be really useful. And you get to learn a lot of very, you know, life-changing skills, really.
And is there anything else you can add on for a daily aid, I suppose, because not quite a lot of people wouldn't go to therapy daily, I suppose. So is there any small tactics you can bring into your everyday life and work in order to, you know, maybe help you get through that day, to say?
Yeah, there's an example that when my therapist slash coach slash mentor mentioned to me, it spoke to me so much because me coming from an immigrant background as a first generation immigrant, she said people like us, and she's also an immigrant. She works primarily with first generation people of color in California. She said people like us, we don't open doors. Like we don't go around and be like, oh my gosh, you know, this crazy opportunity came up. We don't just open doors. We literally go from 0 to 1. We build a door and we open it for ourselves. So understanding that and coming to terms with that, you know, if you're worried about a potential layoff, or whether, you know, something happens and you're worried about where the next paycheck is going to come, it's so important to be graceful with yourself and remember, you build your own opportunities. You went from 0 to 1 in an entirely new country, with a crazy background. You know, you went through all of this stuff, and here you are, doing SEO, helping businesses, you know, grow exponentially on the internet. And, you know, it's not because you randomly stumbled into something. It wasn't because of luck, right? Which is a common theme in imposter, people suffering with imposter syndrome. You know, it's like, oh my God, people are gonna find out that, you know, it was just luck. I just got lucky. No, you did it all yourself. You built your own door, you built your own opportunities, and then you open the door for yourself.
Yeah, well, I suppose I would say luck is just when preparation meets opportunity within the business world. But yeah, so is there anything, just before we end it, a task that you can do, a mindset you can shift into if you're starting your day off, something hasn't went your way, and you need to take yourself away from I'm not good enough, I shouldn't be here, to more so to take it in your stride to move forward with your days, or some small simple thing that you can do?
Yeah, I mean, reframing your mindset, of course. I mean, that could be very difficult when you're stuck in, you know, a cycle, a thought of, you know, just a cycle that can get a little bit into the negative side. But like I remember, you know, when you're in big tech, things take forever to move. Things move very slowly, and having miscommunication could lead to months of delays if you're working on a project or an initiative or whatever's taking place. So I think having the mindset of like, oh my gosh, today I get to work on 50 pages. Like today I get to optimize 50 pages, or today I get to optimize this very important page that could have an incredible, like a huge impact in the bottom line of the business. So I think of having that mindset, like for example, going from working from home to working in the office, hybrid twice a week. But you know, I have to drive 40 miles. I don't know how many kilometers that is, but you know, I have to drive an hour to work. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's so long. I'm gonna be stuck in traffic. It's like, hey, listen, like I've been working from home for 3 years now. Like now I get to work among other marketers, and I get to have that social interaction, spontaneous moments, and you know, just like it's so beautiful when you get to spend some time with other people that are, you know, in a similar journey as you, and you know, you get to have conversations with them and get to meet them, and you get to drive around San Diego and see the ocean, and you know, it just having a different mindset, you know, trying to think about the positives, and you know, you get to do something instead of
Perfect.
thinking it's like, dang it, I have to deal with this.
Perfect,
I,
Pablo.
I love that you've inspired two people in the comments already with leading with empathy and building doors. We build our opportunities. So that's awesome.
I like that.
So yeah, well, we're about 5 minutes over, Pablo, but just to summarize that last point, so people should just focus on the positives, not the negatives. But listen, thank you very much for coming on and taking time out of your morning to come on and speak to us and all of yours. I'm sure there's a few golden nuggets in there which will definitely be relayed and people will see across social media. But thank you again, Pablo, and we all wish you to have a nice Friday and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Have a
All the
great
best,
rest.
Pablo.
Cheers.
Goodbye.
All the best. Bye bye.